Hey everybody, I'm just making this short video to introduce to you some of the work that you're going to do while you're reading the book before we were free. A couple of activities that I want you to follow up with as you go through each of the chapters. Uh, the uh, first piece is what's on the screen now, which is a list of the characters. There are a ton of characters in this book, and sometimes, although I really enjoy this book, and I think a lot of people really enjoy this book, it can get frustrating that they keep on throwing names out and throwing names out. So what I created for you here is a document with a list of all the major characters. And what you'll notice in the center column is a page number where the character is introduced. This is the first time they mention the character. So this is really for your benefit to keep in mind who each of these people are. So, I'm not looking for huge, lengthy descriptions. When you meet Anita and they tell you who she is, jot down a note or two. As you go through each of the characters, as you get to these pages, and you'll notice they introduce a whole bunch of them in the first chapter, up till like maybe right here, and then they start to spread out a little bit. And again, brief, easy descriptions just for your purpose of understanding who's who, because it can get a little confusing. The next document is about the two signposts that we're going to focus on, just two of them for this book. One is going to be about words of the wiser. This one is going to be about the again and again, the repetition. So we're going to focus on symbols and foreshadowing, which are a major part of this book. And for this first document here, the signpost is the again and again, which is repetition, which is really helpful in finding symbols. And so what I did was created this chart about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major symbols that exist throughout the book. And what I'm asking you to do is when you see the symbol, butterflies, note the chapter and page number, and then what's happening in that scene. Quick notes, don't have to be full sentences. And then what we're going to look at is once you see a bunch of experiences of them mentioning butterflies, we'll look at it and say, so like what's happening in each of those scenes and what does that all add up to together? So then we can look at what it means for this to be a symbol. You might not need all three spaces. You might need an additional, maybe there's a fourth time it's mentioned or a fifth time it's mentioned. But if we see it repeating itself, the again and again, then maybe we can see a better sense of what it actually means. The next document is for foreshadowing. There's a character, Chucha, who is the maid of the family, focusing on the book. And she gives a lot of words of wisdom to Anita, the protagonist. And so what I have here is a list of several of her pieces of wisdom, including, you'll notice at the bottom of each of them, the page number where she says it. So you do not have to hunt for it. It's there right where you can find it. What I want you to do is think of, when you read it, what she means, a potential meaning. Right? What do you think it could mean that she's saying that? And so that when we find out what she actually was saying later on in the book, you'll fill in this part, the actual meaning, and what the idea she was foreshadowing was. Again, you'll do these as they pop up on these particular page numbers, and I'll remind you that you should pay attention to those as we go through the book. So those are really the only signposts we're going to be focused on. We'll do a little extra attention to each of those rather than trying to get a whole bunch of them. The last thing you're going to do each chapter is, you saw this the other day, is have a one sentence reaction to each chapter. All right. And you're going to do that on this Google form. Your last name, first name, you're going to pick the chapter. You're going to pick the choice board box that you selected from this choice board. And then you're going to give me your sentence reaction to the chapter. Simple as that, one sentence, no more than that, and move on. And you're going to keep coming back and forth, back to this document, this form over and over again. So you'll come back after chapter 2, click chapter 2, click chapter 3, click chapter 4, and so on, and give your reaction for each of those chapters. We'll talk about this a little bit in our meet, and I'll be glad to help explain it more in depth if anybody needs it as we go through. But that's going to be the work we're going to focus on while we're reading through this novel. So talk to you soon.